Hey John, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Uh, okay. Uh, the only person I've heard from is the D's, so I'm assuming that Renee and Jorge will be on here in a second.
Okay. Sounds good.
How many practices did you guys get in last week?
None. None.
Yeah.
I got 2 sessions in on the weekend to
Okay.
make up, but we got rained out every night, and I think the night that we didn't get rained out, we had indoor games on Tuesday.
Okay. Right. I'm hearing from most people around that Tuesday was the only day they were able to get outside, if that.
Yeah. That stinks. I mean, I know we usually get rained out in the spring, right? But
Yeah.
usually it's not that bad.
Right. Right. It'll be one day here, one day there.
Yeah. And I was looking at the forecast. It looks like it's going to rain again tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, our fields were pretty soaked.
Were you over at the DuPage River Sports Complex?
Yeah. You know what? The forecast changed. It looks like it might not rain tomorrow.
Yeah, it tends to do that in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, we might get those sessions in. I looked at the forecast this morning, and it looked like it was going to rain like all day Wednesday and Thursday, but it just changed. So that's good. Are you coaching any teams right now?
I'm finishing up with one team. I coach one team at Campton.
Okay.
They asked me for help. Hey, Jorge, how's it going? Request to be a presenter or whatever, and I'll let you in. Yeah, so just the U11 boys team. I won't be with them after this spring. It was similar to the Ajax when I first started coaching the group at Ajax. It's like, hey, we need someone to take over this team, blah blah blah. So okay, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Campton's a big club, aren't they?
Compared to Ajax, yeah.
Yeah. They've got a great facility over there. That massive complex.
Yeah, it's good. They've got a lot of good things going for them. That's for sure. They're really well organized,
Mm-hmm.
So they've been able to whatever that helps them a lot in all ways, financially and obviously communicating, and they've got they continue to steadily grow. Usually if kids leave like another club in the area, that's where they end up going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean they're well organized and everything, so people tend to be pretty happy with the experience. Okay, Jorge says he sent the. Why am I not? Okay. All right, Jorge, try again. I don't. No one's. It's making it seem like Huh. You guys can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why this control panel thing is Corey, I don't know this for some reason this control panel thing that I've got. There we go. Boom, it wasn't responding. But you should be in now. All right, there you are.
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Okay, there we go.
All right, let's get started. I'm not sure where Renee is. Adiz told me he's got a game with his boys that was going to be ending sometime around now, so we'll see if he joins us. All right, so talking just today about addressing non-soccer issues, stuff that comes up that doesn't necessarily relate to us coaching our team. It does kind of, but the things that we don't just show up and coach the practice, coach the game. So, why does it matter? Because whether we like it or not, these things exist. No matter what we do, we're always going to have some sort of issues that come up that aren't, that distract us or take time and energy away from being able to just show up and coach practices and coach games. And inevitably, those things affect our environment and the performance on the field. So whatever those outside factors are, they're part of our performance environment per se, and they affect in one way or another what happens on our field and what we're able to do with coaching. So we've got to learn to address them and manage them the best we can. So timing is important. If we can prevent something, that's ideal. So can we use our previous experiences? Can we try to understand the dynamics of our team and our culture or the situation? If it's a new team, can you do research on the team to try and anticipate what could happen? So, for example, I've taken over teams, and one of the teams I've talked about with you before when I last spring, the U17 Ajax boys team that last week I was talking about how they didn't, soccer wasn't their main thing, and you kind of figure that out. But before I took the team over, I did a lot of research. Hey, what's the background of these guys? What's their skill level? And at that point, I started getting worried a little bit, like, oh man, it's going to be a rough season. Until then, I realized, okay, they're in here strictly for fun, and it's not that serious, so not a big deal. But at first, I was starting to get ready to, create the expectations of, hey, we're not going to maybe do so well this season and so forth. And again, if you have an idea of, if you know someone who coached a team previously, do they have a parent who's an issue? Are there a couple players on the group that clash heads and so forth? The more that we could know, the better. Again, so once we kind of know those and can anticipate what those issues are, can we address them up front? Hopefully before anything happens, set expectations. Here's what the season's going to look like. Here's what you're going to expect to see from me, from each other. And if there's anything that is a potential threat, or or it's threatening the culture, or could become a bigger issue, can you maybe take actions to absolve that threat? Of course, if something comes up, address it immediately. If you ignore it, things fester and they get worse. And people, if depending on how serious it is, people might be thinking, "Gosh, just coach if you care, doesn't even know what's happening." So if something comes up, don't avoid it. As awkward as it might be, as uncomfortable as it might be, you gotta take it on head on and ask for help if you need it. In terms of dealing with it. So some common situations that I could, off the top of my head, parents, they come up to you, talk about playing time, talk to you about results. Do you guys have any other situations that you can think of that come from parents a lot of times that kind of distract from what we're trying to do usually?
I had a parent 2 years ago that was just kind of like loud and very obnoxious during games. I remember, what did he say once? I had to almost like stop. Luckily, we had another coach at the game, but he yelled like they're throwing in the towel, like, and he got really crazy. So like that happens, I guess, if you have a kind of a parent that's out there.
Okay, definitely, yeah, that happens all the time.
I would say like when parents like they themselves trying to take coaching into their hands, like I don't know, I have a parent, for instance, who he himself is a coach at a high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at times he's trying to kind of coach to them like what to do and stuff like that, and to this day, hasn't really. I think he realizes like when he needs to stop. So I don't think it's become that big of a problem. But I would say maybe like when parents try to do the coaching themselves or try to tell the kids what to do when maybe you're telling them a different thing.
Yeah, definitely. That's another big thing, and especially if you, a lot of times in our country anyway, if you get a parent of a kid and they come from soccer rich cultures, whether that's Latino culture or European culture or something like that, where even if the parent never coached before, they just think that because they come from Europe or wherever, South America, that they know better. So good. Players. So sometimes you might have players with a personal hardship or a social issue, or at school, or with their friends, or maybe just the kid has a behavioral problem. Whether that's whether it just means that their parents don't discipline them, or it could mean that hey, they've got a ADHD or that kind of thing. So those are sometimes things that definitely affect us and our team. And we got to try and be aware of those as much as we can. I've had, for instance, I'll give you two examples of mine. One in college, when I was coaching the collegiate level, one of my players comes up to me and just says, "Coach, my girlfriend's pregnant." And that's just like, okay, I don't know. I was talking about like, hey, why you been kind of struggling in school? And this is like, my girlfriend's pregnant. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's 18 years old, and this is totally unexpected kind of situation, and so I got to try and help him through that and help him try to stay on track in school and stay on track as a player, and also handling the preparation for that huge responsibility too. And then on we've had kids with depression and things like that, where they've had some scary thoughts, and you got to try and help them through it. And then any other situations that you guys have had to deal with in the past?
Coaching wise, not really. I had a little kid, so they're not getting any other girlfriends pregnant. But
yeah, that's bigger than any story I have for you.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that big, but anything.
I mean, I know as a player, even when I was on Ajax, I had a teammate who started doing drugs and stuff like that, and obviously I don't know how the coach handled that or anything like that, but we as players, he ended up having to go to rehab and everything. But I guess if that were something we had to deal with.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a big one, and right, especially if you're coaching, getting into the high school ages and stuff. That kind of stuff is big, and actually, there's a lot of drug issues even in the well-off communities, sometimes even worse than the not so well-off communities because they've got access to stuff that, other kids don't. So even though a lot of times those kids, we don't think about that because they might be getting good grades and this and that, but that's a real issue. All right, so I'm gonna give you two scenarios. First scenario, we got a player who only shows up sporadically. Their attendance isn't great, and they don't communicate. They don't tell you, hey, I'm not gonna be there, or I am coming, or whatever. So, what do you do, and what factors are there to consider?
Well then.
Oh, go ahead, Jorge.
Oh, sorry. Well, before you, assume something, I think first you gotta talk to them. Hey, like, why are you missing practice? There's something going on. If they just say no, I just come whenever I feel like it, or stuff like that, then that's when you kind of would probably have to get tough on them and say, well, that's fine, show up whenever you want, but don't expect to play or anything like that.
Okay. What about now? I intentionally left this vague, but what if it's one of your kids, Jorge, that's at your age? Are you gonna have that kind of conversation with them?
No, well then I'd talk to the parents, because I'm guessing the parents are, obviously the parents are the ones driving them, telling them that they have practice at this time. The kids just kind of go wherever the parents take them. So in that case, then I'd probably talk to the parents.
Sure. Okay. What about you, John?
So I actually do have one kid that is kind of sporadic, and so what I did was I talked to her mom, and I guess the way I would text her every once in a while whenever I caught her in person. I just say, hey, will Asa be at training or whatever? And then, Asa asked me once why she wasn't playing as much, and I, said, hey, you're not coming to practice enough. And ever since I said that, she's been to every single practice. So I don't know, because they're U12, so they're getting driven. But I know that her mom, it's just her mom and her 3 daughters, so it's probably not easy. But now she's coming to training every day, so I don't know if I handle that the best, but they're showing up every time now.
Yeah, so. And you know what? That's some good things to think about, because even though you did get the result, right? You got the result you wanted. She's showing up, but maybe we don't always know how much of a burden that is maybe on the family. Maybe she's feeling like, oh, I've got to prioritize this because she's not going to play as much, and maybe one of the other kids, they whatever else they might do, swimming or ballet or something or whatever, maybe they're the ones now is being sporadic. And is there something else, if you know that kind of thing, and again, I'm by no way criticizing you, John, I'm just bringing up thoughts. Is there maybe something you think, is there some to help them come up with a solution,
Yeah.
It could be, hey, can you try to help them find a carpool or something like that? Because even for kids that don't drive themselves, and your age particularly, John, or your girl's age at U12 and stuff, they're old enough to start to take responsibility for themselves to the extent that they can. They get themselves dressed. They can keep track of a basic schedule. They can communicate with their parents and know when practices are and that kind of thing. So, right, they can't drive themselves, but they can do everything else possible. So if that part of it, if you can help your players a little bit, try to influence their parents. But again, think about what might be at play. Like you said, you're in that situation. It's a single mom with 3 kids. That's a tough situation. There could be other things happening, in their personal lives that we're not sure about, and maybe there's a time when we're maybe not, or maybe a little more lenient on those rules.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
we can always, there's always room for exception. So just, I think in general, you guys have a good, view on it, and obviously, yes, you want to address it, but just always kind of remember, I try to give my players a benefit of the doubt. If a kid shows up without the right kit on at practice, I'll say, hey, do you have it? Like, do you own it? You haven't lost it or anything, right? And they go, oh yeah, no, I've got it. I just forgot, or I just didn't wash it. Then I get on them,
Right.
But you never know. There's a kid that goes, oh yeah, my mom gave it away to Goodwill. She thought we weren't going to use this shirt anymore. And okay, then we got to get you a new one, and then I'm going to hold you accountable to wearing it or whatever, So anyway, okay, good thoughts on that. Scenario number 2. We got a parent that says they're upset about a relationship with their child and another player. So they come to you saying that there's some sort of issue between their kid and another kid on the team. They don't like each other or something along those lines. Again, what do you do? What do you consider?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I might try talking to both of the kids at the same time. Ask them, whatever has been said, what's the deal, right? And maybe start that way. And I would maybe tell the parent, let me talk to the 2 kids, see what the issue is, and if it's something, childish, then we can deal with it, and then figure it out from there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's something that like I could tell too, so like if the parent brings it up and something that like maybe you've noticed at practice, they're always fighting, they're always arguing with each other, then maybe that's something that you would have tried to solve before. I guess the parent found out about it. Not found out, because that sounds kind of like you're trying to keep a secret, but before it was brought to attention of the parent. So try to solve it with the 2 kids that are maybe not having the best relationship with each other.
Okay. What if you think the parent is full of it and there's not really an issue?
So the parent maybe just doesn't like the other parent, just bringing the kid into it then, or
maybe they have just a misconception of the situation. They're watching the game and they feel like Susie never passes to Sarah. She must not like her, or whatever. It could, it could be a number of things.
Yeah. I think I might kind of ask not dumb questions, but kind of play dumb a little bit. Ask them, well, have you seen an example of that, or what do you mean by that? Could you clarify that, and make them give you, if you think they're full of it. Yes, something along those lines. Just kind of calling their bluff a little bit, or in a polite way.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea.
Yeah, if it's like a situation where like maybe you kind of don't really like you said, like if a parent just says, oh, they never pass to my child, they don't do this, but like the child themselves has never really complained, it's mostly the parent complaining, then yeah, but you're like, oh, well, yeah, the game, maybe the game was going this way, or I don't know, I don't really know how to I guess how to describe it, but
so Zach,
the parent is just trying to make the scenario bigger than it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you don't really see a problem, or the kids aren't really complaining about it, or the kid hasn't brought it up. That case, kind of like what John said, just kind of play dumb. Oh, what do you like? I didn't see it. I must have not noticed it, or.
Okay. What were you gonna say, John?
Actually, I was just going to ask. So one of the things Jorge brought up, and I kind of dealt with this once, but I wouldn't say it ever turned into like an issue. It just, someone brought it up, but it was like, hey, my daughter, I don't see her getting passed to, and I know exactly why. It's because when the girls pass her the ball, and this is a couple of years ago, it's not anyone I work with right now, but when I pass her the ball, I'm not going to get the ball back, right? Just she's so much farther underdeveloped, right, than the rest of the team, and that's why, right?
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say it was the biggest issue because they were still like U8s at the time.
Mhm.
So they weren't consciously doing it, but they slowly, consciously started to pass to her less and less. So it's kind of a similar scenario, right? But I'd be interested how you would deal with that.
Well, I've dealt with that before. If you see it and you see it in practice and stuff on a regular basis, I might try to purposely set up a situation in which they're going to need to pass that person the ball, and help and like make a point to say, look, that's the right decision. She's in the right position. You have no one else. Like, you know, again, teach it through the game. Like, you got three people coming on you. You need to pass the ball. That's your only realistic option. Pass the ball. You know, and just kind of make
Right.
a point that your job is to do what you got to do, and you know, just kind of that, and then you know, and try not to. It's tough. It is tough, and especially if you got one player who's really not at the level, and so you can try to confront it that way, depending on what the dynamics are with the players,
Mm-hmm.
or you just try to, uh, you know, I mean, was the player who was not getting passed to, or their parent like conscious of it and like brought it to your attention, kind of?
So the player did, imagine the player's kind of like off in la la land half the time, right? And the parent brought it up. So it's just kind of like, your kid doesn't really belong in a travel sport to begin with, type of a scenario. And the way I handled it was just, hey, I do see that she doesn't always get the ball passed to her, but she also never communicates, right? Or so it's something we work on in practice, but I can't force the ball there. And that's kind of how I combated it with, we work on it, right? We're working on it. They're still like U8, U9 at the time. So, it's like the kid's kind of off in la la land, so it wasn't the biggest deal. But the parent had brought it up as like, why doesn't she get the ball passed to her as much?
Oh, hey, and that I think you probably handle it the best. Like, that's pretty good in my opinion. Especially you see the kid's not really affected by it and they don't care, which is probably why she's in that situation to begin with.
Yeah.
You just kind of tell the parent, like, I don't know. You could probably be honest, say, oh, I don't know. I don't want to say you can be honest. You can be honest and say, like, hey, she's still working. Say, I don't discourage players from pass to her. I want her to get the ball. I want her to get that opportunity. But, I don't know. Maybe it's a different conversation. But at some point, you have to address, like, hey, look, she's a little bit behind. We're working on catching her up, and it's going to take some time. And the players are at an age where they're realizing it, and I'm trying to encourage them the right way. And I'm slowly dealing with it. And in the game, I'm going to do my best. But I think I would say you maybe address it that way if it came up again. But the way you did it is probably good about the bat. Kind of divert the focus elsewhere. Almost put it on her. Like, hey, we're talking about communicating and so forth.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, try your best to try and get that player to catch up, right? However you can, spend slightly, make a point in practices to watch that player and give her feedback to help get better. So I've had this kind of situation in two different ways that stick out in my mind. I've got one very recently where I've got a parent who's very worried all the time about her son. He doesn't fit in. The kids go out and do something after the games and go to like Chuck E. Cheese, and he doesn't get invited, but everyone else does. Basically what my conclusion has been like that parents misperceiving things, and I just and I do try to keep an eye out in practice. Like, do the players actually avoid this kid? Do they not? And I don't see that at all. So you just kind of say, I understand. I hear, I feel you. I will make a point. I'll be aware of it. I do, talk. I encourage them to talk to their kid about it. Are they having fun? Are they enjoying it? Maybe you have a one-on-one conversation with the player after practice, saying, "Hey, how is things going? Are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying your teammates?" And blah blah blah, and try to get that feedback. I think you made a good point, John. Of you said playing dumb or asking questions, but really it's, hey, we got to try and investigate a little bit, right? Get all the facts that we can.
Right.
And I've had a situation where there were two kids, and it was like the Capulets and the Montagues, but are just two different players. Like, they hated each other. They were both two of the best kids on the team, and to be honest, I didn't handle it very well in hindsight. The parents were festering the issue, making it worse, because the parents and everyone, all the parents knew that there was this ongoing feud between these two players, and that just made it worse. It became a fact of life. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone said there was a feud, so there became a feud. When really, I think it started, there wasn't one. It was just two kids that were talented, and they were like U10, so they're getting at the age where they're a little bit hogging the ball. They were boys, so whatever, it happens. But they both had the same personality where, like, it was all about them. They were both that selfish striker type player. So if they would never admit that they were hogging the ball, but anytime they felt like they should have been passed the ball and it didn't go to them, it was always someone else's fault, there was an issue, and I didn't handle it well. I think I pretty much just didn't really do anything. So that was a hard lesson learned. One kid ends up quitting, or actually they both ended up quitting because they both thought the other kid was going to sign up on the team next year. And they both said, if I knew the other kid wasn't coming back, I would have signed up. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway. But in hindsight, I probably could have addressed it with each of the boys individually. I think I would have addressed it individually and talked to them and said, "Hey, do you feel this way? What are your thoughts?" And then talk to the other one, get the two facts, and then have a meeting together and say, "Hey, we need to knock this off because this and that and whatever." And then, because I noticed the parents, sure, the parents go in the car on the way home and talk about, that kid never passes you the ball, blah, 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 and then talk to them and say, you guys need to stop talking about this. Because the more you talk about it, the more it becomes true. So, anyway, good thoughts from you guys. Again, I mean, is there anything you guys are dealing with now that's an issue, or not really?
I got one, so I got one player who comes to practice right now with kind of like she seems tired or like late. She's playing lazy, and it's like plenty talented. Just seems like, it's like she's tired or something. I don't know what the deal is, and it's like she's got a negative attitude. So I'm trying to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah. What are you thinking about? What you're gonna do?
I'm at the point where I'm gonna call her mom or dad. Because it's like the kid's plenty good, very very good, but like walking through a drill with their head down and just not engaged at all.
And that's different from behavior you've seen in the past?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, it happens periodically, but now it seems to be happening consistently. So,
okay.
And I've done the polar side and whatnot, but, the only other thing I can think of is, gotta talk to her parents.
When you pull her aside individually, what do you kind of think? What do you say?
Ask her, is there anything wrong, right? Because it looks like you aren't trying today, right? It looks like you are not interested in being here today. And, I always get the, no type of response. Everything's fine, coach. That type of thing.
Okay. Well, I would say, and this is hard to do. This is not simple. I'm going to make it sound simpler than it is. But try to create an environment where she can feel comfortable being vulnerable. It's very likely that she doesn't want to say anything because she doesn't want to talk about it. So, maybe instead of saying something like, it looks like you're not trying today, you're not interested, like, you kind of flip it around and say, hey, I know you're really good, and I've seen you come with lots and lots of energy, and it doesn't just seem like you might be not into it today. I just care about you, and I want you to have a good time, and I want you to enjoy it. Is there anything that I could do, or something like that, or make her feel like it's okay to say, yeah, I'm not into it today. Hey, if you're not that into it today, that's okay.
Okay.
You can tell me, and you can say, hey, if you want to sit something out, you just don't want to be part of it, okay. Give her that option, especially if you think that she's a good kid, and you believe her, and she's not like purposely going to be doing anything wrong. Give her that benefit of the doubt and say, like, hey, if there's something wrong, you could let me know, and I'm, there's no pressure to participate, whatever, make her comfortable feeling vulnerable. That way you might get a more honest answer. And I worry that, I don't know, I have a tendency to think kind of, maybe I'm too dramatic myself, but I'm worried that, like, if you bring it up to the parents first thing, that they go talk to their kid, depending on the parents, if you know them or whatever. But there's always that chance that they go talk to their kid, and their kid thinks, oh gosh, this is going out of proportion. I don't want all this attention on me, And so they just shut down even more.
Right.
So if you can make them feel comfortable talking to you away from their parents, something they might not want to admit to their parents, that might be a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because you never know. Again, I don't know if it is. It could, parents could be going through a divorce, or just be fighting a lot, or who knows what, right? Or it could be that it's just something your parents did, or something at family life, and they don't want to say that to their parents.
Sure.
So yeah, again, it's tough to try and help kids be vulnerable, but the best that we can just try to always have that relationship and with them, and make them feel comfortable telling you the truth and being honest, the better.
Okay.
All right,
Jorge.
Jorge, yeah, he texted me. He said it came off, or his computer turned off. He joined us. He's joined us again, but my thing's not.
There he is.
Can you answer me?
Oh, yeah, you're in. Perfect. All right.
Okay.
So, anyway, we were just talking. I don't know if how much you heard. We were just talking to John about helping that player feel comfortable being vulnerable and honest. Anyway, anything from you, Jorge? Anything that you're dealing with? I know with the younger kids, it doesn't always become an issue, but
Like what kind of issues do you mean? Like just like
yeah, anything like we've been talking about.
kind of. I guess it's kind of similar to what John just said. Actually, that so I have a player he's one of the more physically gifted. I guess you could say he's a bigger kid. He's taller.
Yeah.
He's bigger. So obviously I don't know. He can. So he's pretty good, but it's kind of a point where in games he just kind of walks around, and then so I let him play. I let him get his minutes, and then once he comes out, I tell him, hey, I need you working hard. If you're not working hard, I can't keep you in there. And then he's like, no, okay, yeah, coach. I'll as he's about to go, I'm like, hey, be aggressive, work hard. I put him back in. It's the same thing, just kind of walking around. If the ball comes close to him, he'll maybe make an attempt at it. If not, he's just kind of walking around. And I think his parents even notice it. His parents are like, hey Johnny, run, be aggressive, run, do something, because he's just kind of walking around. So I guess would it be something I kind of talk with the parents, because like it's kind of the point where like his his dad's even told me like, hey, like how do you coach being like aggressive? Because he just kind of doesn't really feel the hunger for the ball. Every kid at that age wants the ball and they're trying to get the ball, chasing the ball, and he's just kind of walking around. If it comes close to him, he might make an attempt. If not, he's just kind of walking around.
Okay. I would encourage you to tell the parent, don't worry about it. Be patient. Each kid develops that on their own pace. Parents have that tendency to think, to look at all the other kids and go, well, those kids are doing this. Should my kid be doing that too? Why is it? What's
Yeah.
wrong? What's wrong with my kid? Right? And then they want to try and fix it. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong with them. And they develop that on their own time sometimes. So, have you seen different behavior from this kid, or just kind of always been that way? So as long as you've known them.
No, yeah, he's always been that way. Like, I mean, there's some games where he does actually, he's just going after it. He's working hard. But as of lately, it's been more games where he's just kind of walking around. So, I'm just assuming that maybe he's losing interest. Just maybe he doesn't want to do soccer. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because before he used to be that every other game, one game he'd work hard, the other game, he'd go out walking around. We just had our first game over the weekend, and I'm more or less talking about indoor because that's where I started noticing it. But where he is kind of just walking around a lot, not really making an attempt unless the ball comes a foot away from him is when he'll start to do something.
Yeah, I had the same thought as you. My first thought is like what you is maybe the kid's just not that into it.
Mm-hmm.
They're at a young enough age where it's possibly just not that into it, and who knows why he signed up for soccer? Or his parents could have signed him up, or maybe he said he wanted to, and they tried to sign him up for travel, which is a year commitment, and he just kind of like tried it, and he's iffy about it, which again may or may not change down the road. And maybe that's something that you try to do is try to make a point to try and make it fun for him, like be friendly to him, make sure you say hi, encourage him when he sees him doing, when you try to positively reinforce what you're looking for, like, hey, that was great, I love that you just did, and that kind of thing.
Wait, like that's the thing though. Like it's so weird because he comes to games, he comes to practice. He runs to the field. As soon as he gets to the field, he starts dribbling, taking shots on goal. But then when it comes to the game, or it's when he kind of just kind of starts walking around. So I'm like, it's kind of hard to understand where his mind is at because he comes really excited, to play and shoot and stuff like that. But then in the game, when he's just kind of walking around.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard, particularly with that age, because they don't always know how to express themselves. Have you tried to have a conversation with them?
Not about his actual play. I haven't been like, hey, what's going on or anything like that. Because, if I do talk to him, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm ready to play. I'm ready. He sounds excited. But then when it comes to actually being on the field is when he's just kind of walking around. So that's why it kind of confuses me at times.
Okay. Well, maybe he doesn't know what to do. Is it possible that he just like you put him on the field as you tell him whatever, a certain position, and he's like, he just kind of lost, so he doesn't really know what to do?
No, I wouldn't say it's lost because especially like with my kids, I usually try having them play each position, even if they're like, oh, I hate playing defense. I'll have them. Maybe if I start him on a defense, he'll eventually be up top playing forward. So, maybe it's not that. Who knows? But
because you're saying maybe it could be, and again, if he's new at soccer, whatever, maybe he's not quite sure. You might, but I might try an approach similar to like what I said, John, where give him the benefit of that, like maybe empower him a little bit and be like, hey, what would get you really excited to go in right now? Like, what would you love to do? And kind of see what he says, or I give him like, hey, what position do you want to play when you go on the field? And maybe that'll get him excited. Something. I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas out there.
No, yeah.
But it seems like it seems like it might be something where it's a passion thing, and so maybe it's, but that could be on a number of levels. It could not be with just soccer. It could be just a specific position, or just not really knowing what to do, and not feeling confident out there. something like that. It could just be an age growing pains thing for him. But just try to keep trying to get to what, see if you can discover what the core of the issue is or what the cause of it is, and once you know that, it's much easier to address it.
Yeah.
But until then, you just keep guessing and checking, I guess.
No, yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I've got for you guys, unless you guys have anything else you want to discuss.
No, I'm
Yeah,
good.
I guess my other question was kind of what I just said. If a player is like, Coach, don't put me in this position. Like, I don't want to play this. How do you handle that exactly? Because I just kind of let you know that I like rotating my players. If a kid likes playing forward, even if he says I hate playing defense, I want them to play every position, especially when it's four field players.
Yeah, that's good.
So how would you kind of let them know? I mean, I tell them, tough. You got to play every position, just like you played, 5 minutes defense. Now this person wants to, or play as a forward. Now it's this person's turn to play forward. Or
Okay. No,
I should be doing something differently.
No, that's good that you do that. First of all, I would ask them why.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you want to play there? And if they say something goofy like, "Because I want to play forward, I love to score goals," and say what, then I would just keep going with the approach that you have. Like, look, here's what and say, here's what this before going to the game, or if not, now you do know. I'm telling you, before the game, everyone's gonna rotate playing everything.
Mm-hmm.
If the kid goes, I don't really know what to do there, or something like that, then okay, maybe you need to just review with them more. Again, I would ask why and see what the approach is, and if it's just them saying I just don't like it, I want to be like Neymar, then tell them that even Neymar used to play center back when he was his age. I don't know, make it up. But you understand what I mean? Like, you just might be ask him why, and it kind of gives you maybe a little more insight. Again, you can choose to handle it sometimes goofy with them, and be silly about it, and they'll get over it. It doesn't have to be, especially at that age, or just kind of being silly with stuff. But if they just seem like just because I'm going to say selfishly just want to play forward all the time, then I would say, well, I understand that. So does everybody else. So we're all taking turns. But if there's something else, maybe you handle it then. They could just say, I'm not a good defender. They don't believe, and then you say, well, that's why. Why don't you go in there? I think you're doing a good job. I wouldn't put you there if I didn't think you could do it. And if you feel like you want to get better, this is your chance to try and practice it, get better. That's all I want you to do is do the best you can. Something like that.
Okay.
So just maybe start there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's just the only question I had.
All right.
I'm good.
Good.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. Yeah. Thank you
you.
guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Night. Night.